Welcome to the revolution will not be televised. It will be streamed. A conversation about life and leadership in the digital world. It is a fact that the whole globe has gone viral. And so me and my fellow hosts just want to help you to navigate this meandering maze called pandemic. And hopefully we're leading you to possibilities. Stephen, we are in our 32nd week, sir.
Yes, sir.
We've been, as you've been saying, for free.
For free.
32 weeks we've been grinding it out. And I have to say, as I do every show, I celebrate your friendship, your partnership, your brotherhood, and of course, this collaborative effort that you and I have embarked on that was jointly our idea. We talked about it and we made it come to fruition. How you doing, man?
All is well, man. It's good to be with people who you don't have to compete with, but you can rather complete the assignment that's been given to you. So I enjoy.
Well, hold on. You started early. you started early, sir. That's a whole show right there. Compete or complete. So we got to write that one down. That's a whole
we'll get it done.
Yeah. You compete with me or do you complete me? And of course, with the guest I have today, they could really unpack that subject when it comes to love and relationships and marriage. As a matter of fact, I don't even want to belabor the moment, as we would say if we were given a church introduction.
That's it.
I want you to introduce our guest and what our focus is for today, man. I'm so glad that they're here. They're my brother. They're my sister. But before you introduce them, please tell those who are watching us who this show is for, so they'll make sure that they're tuned in to the right podcast.
Exactly, man, because we want to make sure that we're touching the right audience, people who are entrepreneurs, social media influencers, executive educators, lottie-dottie, and everybody.
Yes, sir.
But the key principal points that will qualify you to be a part of this conversation, a part of the group, is that you have to be an individual that's interested in mobilizing your purpose, multiplying your productivity, and maximizing your potential. If that fits you, you're in the right place at the right time, and you need to invite some more like-minded people to connect with this opportunity to grow and to share nuggets and knowledge as we expand you, increase you, multiply what you bring to the table. I'm glad to have my big brother and sister from the ATL in the house with us today, the pastors of the church. That's it. Just the church. And they've been doing the doggone thing down there in the Atlanta area for some years now. Pastor Jasper and Pastor Alecia Williams. Y'all welcome to the revolution. It's an honor to have you here to share your nuggets and your insight. I think when I first started pastoring at New Covenant, the first guest that my dad allowed me to bring in were you two, and I was able to do that couples retreat. And so we've been rocking for a minute now, and I enjoy seeing your marriage. I've been up close and from afar, seeing how you do marriage, how you do life together, how you serve as a prime example for how this thing really should be done. And that's in a very sincere and honest way, because as preachers, we know that it's a lot of jacked up marriages and relationships, and I've seen you all do it well. And so I'm excited about you all talking about I am before I do, to lay some foundation for individuals, especially singles, on some principles that you need to engage in before the engagement. You need to be ready before you're ready. And so Jasper, Alecia, the floor is yours.
Welcome. We're so glad you're here.
Man, thank you, Rick, so very much for inviting us. I mean, this is certainly our area that we enjoy. There's a passion, there's an anointing that happens whenever we start talking about marital stuff. We would have been married for 23 years in March. Our daughter Jordan is away in college. She's a junior, just turned 21, and our son Jasper the fourth, we call him Quad, is 16, just turned 16 in April. And so marriage means an awful lot. Thank you, Rick, so very much.
Well, actually, this was my wife's idea. She loves seeing other healthy couples. And so I told Stephen, I said, okay, I've got to put together some other episodes here. And so it was pillow talk. You know how that goes. And I was telling her, I said, me and Stephen, we're trying to plan out the rest of the year. She's like, well, I think you should bring Jasper and Alecia on, and here's what they should talk about. So she gave you all your assignment today.
well, let me just say thank you for listening to your wife then.
Hey, that's why I'm here.
Appreciate it, ma'am. No, seriously, it just means a lot to be here, and certainly thank you to you and your wife and to Steve. He said it right. I mean, I just ditto everything he just said. We are family. That is my other a little brother. And to watch you grow up, man, me and my wife. Here's an interesting story, Rick.
I love stories.
Yeah.
Especially if they're about Stephen.
So when I moved back home from Dallas, which is where I met my wife, and we were long distance for 10 months. And I moved back and got an apartment right next to the park, 13th Street in Piedmont. I mean, it was popping. We sit on the balcony and listen to the concerts. And lo and behold, my brother, his lease was up and he and Steve were roommates. They moved right up the street. It was nothing for them to show up at our door.
At least.
I don't know how they got in.
At least once a week.
On the 13th floor.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it got past security. I guess they were there so much that the security thought they lived there.
Right.
They come knocking on the door. What we having for dinner tonight?
That's right. Y'all had food.
That's how long we've known Steve.
Wow.
That's what we think about him. So yeah, thank you, Steve, for a very, very warm introduction.
Yeah.
I mean, you care to say?
No, that was good. Yeah.
So we started a ministry called Team Us, and I remember the invitation, Steve, that you gave us. I always brag about that. I've done a conference for Dr. Stephen Thurston, and First Lady, Pastor and First Lady Meeks. So I remember that, and it's been opportunities like that has caused us to be able to continue to stand on a platform. And so our ministry is called Team Us, and the tag phrase is, "There is no us without you." We tried to do it right when we were dating. We've tried to do it right when we have since we have been married. And the very interesting thing that you say is compete and complete. Steve, you dropped that earlier.
Yeah.
Rick amanned it with some sound effects. And that's really the essence of marriage. Two people cannot compete in a marriage. I think there's some intrinsic proclivities towards competing with each other. I think it's a part of human nature. But I also think that is an indicator of the lack of vulnerability that two people can experience when there is a competition. I'm gonna let my wife set us up for tonight, or I don't know if there's anything else she wanted to add. I always say, baby, I know she's gonna have a large, impactful ministry, and so who do you think of? Joyce Myers, right? I said, baby, when you become Joyce Myers, I will be perfectly content sitting on the front row, supporting you and spending your money.
Right. You have no problem being Alicia's husband.
None.
At all.
I tell Demi that all the
French.
time. I said, it's a joy to just be your husband. They don't have to know my name. That's Demi's husband. That's all I want you to say.
Right.
And look, from head to toe, I'm look like I'm Demi's husband. Yes, that's
Yeah. So you've asked us, guys, and I don't know if you all can see. I don't know if the graphic can be seen on our side. Can you all see that?
Yes.
No, they can't see it.
Okay. All right. So marriage material. And since Demi gave us the topic, we felt like we would keep with it. I am before I do. Here's the number one problem. Singles, and we're understanding that is our audience that we're speaking to, though some marrieds would probably benefit. Singles don't expect the work that is involved to have a successful marriage. They don't expect it. It's almost like they work so hard to get their face beat, to get their six pack, to get the car, establish credit, get the wardrobe right. That's where the energy becomes. And yeah, those things attract each other, but that is not work. That is not the work that it takes for two people to be stitched together.
Right.
And actually, culture doesn't cultivate that. The world that we live in does not cultivate endurance, does not cultivate, I guess if we were talking to church folk, a long suffering. And that's that's a problem. And so we commend you, you all both, and honor what you're doing here to set couples up for greater chance of success. And I think that would be my one bit of advice. If you're not ready to work, you're not ready to be married. It's not about sex and traveling. That can be what's missing. I think that everyone's
hold on. You're going too fast. You got to say that one more again.
Marriage is not about sex and traveling.
Thank you.
Although both are good.
Yeah, both are great.
Both should be done regularly.
Yeah. But
even.
But when it comes to the fabric of marital relationship, that becomes the accent and the exclamation mark. That's not the sentence. And I think it's funny because Demi and I talk about that all the time. And it's like those things are enjoyable, but you have people who will do those things and still go do other things because they're not filled in themselves. And when you're not filled in yourself, then you're not going to be fulfilled in any relationship that's designed to add value to you, and you're designed to add value to it. So that's, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that was all that right there. Thank you for saying that.
Well, man, this is a conversation, and we appreciate it. We want to hear that. And we're really back to what Steve said earlier, that is competing. And when there is no fulfillment, I feel like I have to try to get one leg up. And God has designed it to be a completion. Yeah. I'm sure that everybody has heard these words. I take you to be my wife or husband, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and cherish until death do us part, according to God's holy law, in the presence of God. I make this vow. And just the basic understanding of a vow, well, either it should persuade people not to get married or push them towards the altar. We're watching that premarital counseling is slipping with us. We do less and less of it. And it's really a shame that that's the case. But we are now coming to understand that people just want to get to the concept and to what they feel as being the idea. And they don't understand the fundamental principle of what a vow means.
No, that's good. Yep. And so we want to unpack today, we want the vows, and just think about, if we're talking about I am before I do, well, let's just talk about what that looks like, because we can say this at the altar, but do we really mean it? And I think that's what singles need to know before the dress, before the wonderful outfits and the amazing honeymoon. What do you really want in a marriage? But also, who are you? And that's the bottom line. A lot of us, I'm thinking about when we got married, or even before we got married, there's just some things that we bring, some baggage that we bring that we don't even know about, good and bad. So for instance, his mom is an amazing cook.
Ask Steve, he's,
his mama
he's partaken.
So I'm looking at all this stuff she can do, homemade, no box, no cans,
none of that.
Just and I go and I'm like, let me see if I can do that, and it didn't work. She is the amazing cook, and that was a big deal the first 2-3 years of our marriage, because I'm trying to measure up to something that I wasn't, and I had to understand and recognize my value in who I am. And that didn't mean that I had to be this woman.
Right. Yeah, better or worse. I mean, not only, and that's a small example that she didn't have to be better. But when it comes down to worse, I mean, come on, life is full of vicissitudes, ups and downs, ebbs and flows. And we go by this little principle that has brought us life. And as we've shared it before, it seems to bring others life, that there has to be permission to say, I don't like you right now.
Yeah.
But I love you. Because life will present some worst case scenarios. But then life has the better scenario. But your love should never be determined whether it's because of or in spite of, or where there's a lack of worse. And that's real talk. Now, a spiritual note before we move on to the second part. And by the way, if you haven't figured it out, we're going to unpack those 5 things that singles need to know before they marry.
Yes.
Real talk is that the enemy keeps a list of all your stuff, and he doesn't call the note due until you are in covenant. So got all of his stuff, all of her stuff. And he makes you think that the molestation as a child, you got over it. What you've been harboring against mom and dad, it's your college days, your BC days before Christ, all those things he keeps record of. And now you meet your Adam or you meet your Eve. And as soon as you enter into that covenant, that vow before God and men, the devil goes, all right. And he begins to play those cards. That's where the covenant has to come in. God would not allow it to happen if he was not going to give you an escape from it.
I think that when it's all said and done, what should singles consider when it comes to for better or for worse? It's this simple. What's the max of the worst?
Ooh.
So if you're having that conversation and you know you've been with that man, that woman for a minute, is there a limit to your worst?
Oh.
Because if there is, that needs to be discussed.
Exactly.
Before I do.
I'd like
that's a good point,
all,
Lisa.
before you all move forward, I'd like for both of you to do a deeper dive into facilitating this ecosystem of authenticity. You talked about both parties giving each other the permission to be their authentic selves. And I think that's one of the most critical components in a relationship, where both parties know that because of your love for me, that I can fully be vulnerable as me and not have to compromise any part of me, and know that everything about me is safe with you. So I'd like for you all to just dive a little deeper on that end of the pool before you move forward with the principles, and talk about some of the elements that go in that ecosystem of authenticity. So that, because the whole thing is we're dealing with the I am before the I do.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think that's most critical, because if I come in and I haven't learned how to be secure with who I am authentically,
yeah,
then of course I'm going to inevitably take from you to try to fortify me, which then leaves you with a deficiency. So talk about that, if you will.
I think when I look back through our years and I'm thinking about, I'm not the same Alecia I was blah, 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 years ago.
we understand. We can interpret time.
No.
23 at least.
23,
you know?
yeah. I'm not the same Alecia. And I don't even know, Dr. Rick, I don't even know if I knew how to
by the way, Ricky's fine. I'm your brother.
Okay.
So
okay,
Ricky's
thank
fine.
you.
Thank
I'm not even sure if I knew how to be authentically me, because I think in some regards, it's a learning process, and there are ebbs and flows to our relationship. And there are some days, being a woman, since I'm the only woman on this panel, it's some days where I may like flowers, but next week I may not.
Right.
That's just one. That's just one example.
Take the may out.
This is, you said that's a guarantee.
Yeah, that's just one example, and that's him learning that I am fluid like that. Right. Another thing could be, but I didn't know that initially. It takes a lot of communication. It takes us being willing to be naked and unashamed. So taking the fig leaves off and saying, do you really like this about me? That it will take me a long time to wash 4 loads of clothes. It's the small things. Are you okay with one day I'm red and the next day I'm blonde? There are different aspects of Alecia that he loves and that I've learned about myself. And then there are things that irritate him because I am so all over the place at times. He's like, will you just sit down and concentrate? But I didn't know there are things I had to learn about myself as we were growing together. And I think that's the bottom line.
So that's
that
good.
We want
So
to grow together.
what is the ecosystem he created that
Mm.
made you comfortable with your fluidity and evolution? My father would always say, he said, it's not about you saying you can't live without her.
Yeah.
Can you live with her?
Yeah.
He said, I know people say they're in love. Oh, I can't live without you. He said, no, that's not the key. The key is, can you live with them?
Mm-hmm.
So what did he do? Jay, in this case, what did he do to create that ecosystem that made it easy for at least you, even if it would make him uncomfortable from time to time, because he's discovering, right? So while you're learning he's discovering you.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Let me be clear. It hasn't been easy. Because there have been some things that have created a lot of disagreement, a lot of pushback, because
thanks for the transparency.
The irritation of me being all over the place at times would irritate him. And so now I'm trying to figure out, well, am I just, is this character or is this really who I am? So now I'm trying to figure out which side of the how to balance myself, if there is such a thing. And the other thing is really, or is he trying to make me become something? So we've had some very difficult conversations. We've had some seasons where I did feel like, utterly transparent, that I was losing myself because I was trying to be what he wanted me to be. And that's the ugly joy of marriage. That you go on this journey. That's a great
word combination, the ugly joy.
Yeah. That you go on this journey and sometimes you're like, yay, it's awesome. And other times you're like,
hated it.
Because the reality is, it's not just two people, it's two worlds. It's not just two people, it's not just two families, it's two worlds. And they are colliding. And what's funny, they're colliding while they're constantly in motion.
Right.
And evolving themselves. So it's not like one combustion and then it's over. It's like multiple combustions that's happening on an ongoing basis.
Absolutely.
Wow. Can I add a question in, Lisa?
Yeah.
Because of course, as I do my relationship stuff, you hear the young ladies, the single young ladies, with this checklist of what they want from a guy.
Yeah.
I want somebody with power. I want somebody with paper. I want somebody with a stage, with a platform. And you married that. What adjustment did you have to make in marrying a well-known, powerful, papered up person?
Wow.
By the way, that's a book right there, Alecia.
Yeah,
I think that's an ebook for you to write.
That's it.
Yeah. Power, paper, and platform. So
don't forget dynamic personality.
Oh
yeah. It was
So there's your co-author right there.
Of course. It wasn't easy because I felt like I was viewed as the one that received the prize. So aren't you lucky?
Gotcha.
Aren't you, and I'm like, no, he's lucky too.
And she said that to people.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, oh, you girl. She's well, he's got me.
Yeah. So it was.
Oh, that's so good.
But it did get into some regards to my psyche, because I thought, well, am I good enough? And do I?
It's like, how do you process through that?
Yeah.
How do you process being compared to and weighted in the wrong areas?
Absolutely. Yep. And honestly, I'm the type of woman, the paper and platform, I just loved him. And I'm not trying to, I just did. I didn't even know.
It's true.
I know, don't throw rocks. I promise I am a Black Christian. I didn't know who Jasper Williams was.
No disclaimers needed.
Okay. I still
For your audience.
I still keep my Black card.
Yeah, you good.
Okay.
Yeah, you good.
I didn't know. So I fell in love with Jasper.
Yeah.
We still question your nationality, though.
Oh, okay.
Actually, she was Baptist.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wait, but then my grandmother said, wait. Who are you dating? She said, you know who that is? Yeah.
And her family, was the one that, started talking. I think she overheard, but
Yeah, I didn't know.
that's what I loved about her.
Yeah.
She wanted just me.
Right.
And I had gone through, I grew up in Atlanta, couldn't go anywhere in Atlanta. Right. You Jasper Williams. Actually, my name is Jasper also. So here we are, two people fighting for identity.
Good. Yeah.
And I'm fighting for my own identity. I didn't have language for this, but my own identity to be acknowledged outside of my father's name. Give me my suffix. Because the third is different than junior.
Right.
Yeah.
And so here she is fighting to, she moved from Dallas, Texas, moved from Dallas, a transported peach, to Atlanta. She don't know streets, people. All she knows is my mama and Steve and my brother.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's all she knows. And so now she's trying to compete for everywhere we go. And somebody's saying, oh, you are your daddy's, and I got issues, and now you lucky to be with him. And so we all are trying to, who do you process that kind of stuff with? Who do you, or is it even worth processing? And our point is that there can be confusion there, and that hinders transparency.
Yes, sir.
That hinders the authenticity.
Yeah.
And transparency has to be earned. And the way you earn transparency is by creating solid trust. And the best way to create solid trust is with consistency. I think there was this one comic that I saw. I don't know how we're going to get through the rest of this.
But this is going to be a part two. I don't know how. Let me say this before you make that point. I think the power of you all's relationship is the power of any healthy relationship. And that is what you were seeking to be is what she was seeking to love. And that is authentic identity. You were seeking your authentic identity, and that's what she was seeking to love. So you wasn't seeking to be another form of the same kind. As you said, you wanted your suffix. And what she was in love with was the person that came with the suffix, not the person who has a suffix and the origin of where they got it from. And I think that's very critical for people to understand. To Stephen's point, a lot of these women with a wish list are looking for an idea instead of an identity.
I want to add this, and since I'm amongst preachers, Steve, maybe you'll appreciate this. You said women want platform, power, and paper, but I think above everything else, women, if you're listening to me now, you want a man that will pursue his presence. Because a man that loves
you just that.
I did.
She did it.
She expanded the alliteration.
Where's the hoop triggers?
Stephen, you don't have Stephen, you don't have A flat over there?
I don't have hoop triggers. I think Durham's got it.
Come on now, we got to get better around here. I got to get something going.
Say that.
Hey. Glory. And I ain't playing. It's about to start.
Yeah, the most attractive
so
man is one that pursues his presence, the one that prays, the one that is on his knees, crying out to God on behalf of his family. That's sexy right there. Not the paper, not the platform. All that stuff can be gone tomorrow.
Sure.
But You can never, a man that pursues his presence, that can last forever.
But people don't realize that's where the identity is. The identity is in his presence.
Yeah.
That's where a man is made and molded. Go ahead, Third.
Yeah. So this whole, that was good, baby. So this
that
whole,
was great.
This whole better or worse. I mean, you can't be transparent at the beginning of marriage, premarital counseling, first year of marriage. You'll never have that kind of transparency until you reach those spots, until you've had to work through some things.
That's true.
And so here's the biggest thing. You mentioned, Rick, that two worlds are colliding while still in motion. Here's the God side. They're colliding while still in motion at a vow, at a promise. And people, I'm convinced people don't believe that marriage is designed to work. Well, it's not designed to work if all you want are the carbs and the sugar.
Right.
You've got to get the processed stuff out of your marriage, and that's what authenticity is. Yeah, I saw this one comic, and it had a guy driving a motorcycle, and this is again a little sketch. Guy driving a motorcycle, and a woman is holding on to the back of him, and he's flying through the air like he had hit a ramp, flying through the air. Her hair has separated from her head. Her leg has fallen off. Her dentures are on the other side, and her breasts are in another part of the picture. That's a great picture of transparency.
Did he lose stuff too?
No, he didn't.
Well,
but the whole point, it's the principle. It's the principle. Stay with me,
okay,
please. The principle is, can you handle me when I don't have all of that?
Right.
And until you can, and I'm talking about all of my ugly places, all of my mess, because this whole ecosystem is that if we're going to be authentic, she mentioned about marrying me and this, that, and what she wanted, and how she was trying to conform. No matter how much a man conforms to a woman's ideals or a woman to a man's, even if they do it perfectly, there will be a shell of a person present.
Right.
And no joy.
No joy.
You might as well go and marry a robot.
Exactly.
The beauty is in when I can love you for your nuances.
Right.
You know, I used to think I never would want a woman to snore. I couldn't imagine. I told her a few days ago, you snore so cute. I think it's probably cutely. She goes.
Stephen, we can't laugh.
Laugh.
I need another woman.
It's so graceful.
So I know his snoring was a bear.
I thought you were gonna use that other word start with a B.
Oh my gosh. Wrong.
I made a pivot.
right at the vowel. But you know what? And this is let me just highlight this. When I love her, it's cute. When I don't like her,
oh, that's good.
and I'm up at night,
that's good.
And I'm ticked off.
Yeah.
I can't stand it. It gets on my nerves.
Yeah.
But that's a better or worse situation. End up falling asleep. We get up the next morning, we work through it, and we continue to proceed after our destiny.
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't think I've ever seen.
I
Rick
know, so quiet.
On a live night.
Y'all better jump into the next one.
Because there's gravitas on this. There's weight on this, and I don't want to rush through it. I think there is a call to mindfulness, because we're living in a culture and a society that's preoccupied with ceremony and preoccupied with the wedding day.
Yep.
And I always tell people, when folks say, well, my marriage has problems, my marriage is broken, I say, no, it's not your marriage, it's the individuals. There's no such thing as a bad marriage. The issue is when you have broken people. And if you've got broken people in this concept of marriage, that's why I always tell folk, let's stop calling marriage a union. You know what unions do? If a person's been a member of a union, unions stand on opposing sides and fight for individual rights. That concept that we use for marriage is not biblical. It's not a union. It's communion.
Yeah.
It's partnership. It's me bringing my whole self and everything I come with, all of my idiosyncratic behaviors, all of my ideologies, and bringing that to you, you bringing yours to me, and together we find we. You know what I'm saying? Like, we find who we are by bringing all of ourselves to it. And so that's the reason for the pregnant pause, because I want to make sure as you all go to the second point, I want to make sure that people really understand the importance of identity in this. Yeah. Because you don't want to lose yourself in the other person, nor do you want to create an unfair expectation of that person having to morph into something that they were not designed to be. Both individuals ought to become more of themselves.
Right. Right.
By what they add to each other. And that's very critical.
Absolutely. You want to speak to that? No, you're absolutely right. And I think it does take time. And it does take difficult conversations, and it does take, we're strong proponents of counseling. It takes having conversations. Sometimes, you can't have with just the two of you, that you need some wise mediators in your lives to unpack what it is. And sometimes it's the fact that you're warring to be your true self. It's not really about the dishes. It's about what's going on internally. So I totally agree. And I think that's why we are making it, because he's able to celebrate me and I'm able to celebrate him, and we push each other to be greater.
Right. That's the key.
Yeah. Yeah. So our second one is, we're going through the marriage vows, and it is for richer, for poorer. And that goes back to Steve, you were saying how women want the power, the paper, and the platform.
And what year two?
I said pursuit of his presence. Okay. Yeah.
The bottom line is personality.
Dynamic. That's good.
Yeah, he had a dynamic personality.
That's right. So this goes back to what it is you can handle. And I think we don't have enough money conversations prior to marriage. So what is your credit score? Yeah. Have you ever filed bankruptcy? Do you have a budget? Do you know what that is? How many credit cards you have?
Right.
How are we who's going to handle the money? We're going to handle it together. We're going to have separate accounts. All these different things, it goes back to who you are. So when you come together, you all can have a communion, not a union. You want to add to that?
Yeah, I was just sitting there thinking that this was one of our struggles, and remained a struggle for, as up until
yesterday,
last week. She's actually probably right, because we missed our budget meeting. Oh. But here it is. I had the wrong idea of money. I was very well taken care of, went to school on dollarships, not scholarships.
Wow.
And I just had this, I wasn't in touch with the common man. A budget, what's that? Steve and I were laughing earlier. We both had the swipe a dad card problem. That's been diagnosed, by the way. For something I wanted, just go get it. I was a kid that even in seminary, I bought the required reading and the recommended reading.
What normal student does that? I didn't even know. So he's telling me, I'm like, you didn't borrow the book? You actually bought it?
Meanwhile, other students are sharing books. I wouldn't go say that. Hey, let me get that, run to the library and make some copies. So anyway, my whole ideology of money, it didn't work for us when I was 33. I turned 33. We started the church. There goes my salary, all benefits and everything else. And I'm like, why the lights off? It's real talk.
Wow.
What I owe how much on our more? Why didn't I have to grow? It was very rude awakening.
Wow.
Because I did not have any money principles. And back to the whole point, you know, before singles get married, not only is it the credit score, foreclosure, bankruptcy, and all those other kinds of things, you know, you hear some secular folks like, do you have good credit? If you ain't got no good, I can do bad. No, it's talk to me about money. Tell me how do you spend money? How, you know, what's your idea of saving? You know, man, we were fortunate, and finally I got it. But I was kicking against the prick of she wanted me to do it. She wanted to be involved. And the decision rested with me. She's always respected me as the head of the house, but I was leaving her out of certain things that she wanted to be involved in.
Because of, here's the baggage. That's how he grew up. He grew up with dad handles the money, and that's it.
Ask Roberta how much she need, and then he send it to her.
That's
you know,
it.
so that was my mindset. I was gonna say something. So in progression now, 12 years later, I think last year, Jordan was studying. She did a semester abroad and was in Italy. And when we knew that she was going to go, we committed to celebrating Thanksgiving with her in Italy. It was an expensive trip. I mean, you know, 3 tickets, you know, we were there 8-9 days, you know, hotel, food, all this, that, and the other. It was an expensive trip. It took us about 10 months to save up for it.
Because we didn't want to use credit card.
We weren't going to use credit card. So each month we figured out how much money we had, we needed to make the payment for our trip.
Right.
There's no way in the world I would have done that with my dad. If I was still living in his ecosystem, you know, just when you get ready to leave, how much money you need? I don't think that's enough. You know,
He always said we had to have that FU money, Third.
FU.
Y'all remember that?
FU. Is that a tongue? FU.
Lord Jesus.
Yeah, what Stephen said. But here's my point. There was a sense of clarity and joy and fulfillment that came because we did it together. She sacrificed some things. I sacrificed some things. We postponed some things. But this right here, in the best way, this is my dog. I mean, she my ride or live. I don't want to pastor the rest of my life. I told somebody just yesterday, I'm going to walk away from this thing, you know, at a certain, I ain't going to die in the pulpit. I said, I'm ready to travel and I want to go spend time with my wife, hang out with my grandkids and rub on her. But it's the stuff that you do early on that when you quit kicking against the prick, get over the fact that we're going to have some worse. Get over the fact that we're going to have some better. Get over the fact that you might lose your job. We might have to make it on one income. Get over the fact that our income tax came back. It's when you work through all of those kinds of things that your future destiny, beyond kids being home, it comes into clarity and it becomes something that you can achieve, that you should achieve together.
So are you all suggesting to a single person that before they even think about somebody else, there are 2 things that you all have covered so far that I'd like to encapsulate. One, they've got to do an assessment as to how healthy they are for themselves. And then 2, they got to do an assessment to how healthy they are with finances. Because in a nutshell, that's what you all have shared about thus far. When it comes to that I am before I do, how healthy am I for me? Because if I'm not healthy for me, and I know there's still more to be discovered about me, even once I'm in this relationship, but if I'm not healthy for me, then I can't contribute something to this ecosystem. You get what I'm saying? That's going to be healthy for them. But then along with that, it's not enough to have emotional intelligence and spiritual intelligence and revelation knowledge and understand scriptural truths. I got to have some financial intelligence.
Yep.
And that's very critical. My father used something else he used to say, and this is just the person that I shaped my value system from. He'd say, you don't have to ask a potential mate how they're going to do certain things. He was like, be around them and watch them do it.
Mm-hmm.
He says, so you can't be out dating. So how you act when you get mad?
Mm-hmm.
He said, just wait until you make them mad. You know what I'm saying? Or how do you handle finances? Just ask them for their checkbook register.
Mm-hmm.
You know, or in this case, the phone. You know what I'm saying? Let me see your Chase app. You know, I mean, you'll be able to see what's going on. So I think, and you all got to share at least one more. We can go a little long because this is so rich, but it's important for singles to understand how healthy are you for yourself and allow somebody outside of you to assess you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Let me drop a resource on your audience,
Please do.
whoever it might be. It's called Emotionally Healthy.
Yes.
Emotionally Healthy by Pete, P-E-T, short for Peter, Pete Scazzaro, S-C-A-Z-Z-E-R-O, Emotionally Healthy by Pete Scazzaro.
Yes.
When you said you have to make the determination, am I healthy emotionally as a person? Then you went on to ask the same question about financial health. I think financial health is probably easier to determine. You've got Dave Ramsey and many others that are out there that help you determine and see on paper where there is sickness.
You got tangible metrics you can use for finance.
And that was the word I thought about. What metric do we use to determine if I am healthy?
Emotionally, exactly.
That is not, and we are our emotions. That is not avidly or regularly seen in churches where you emotionally. Typically, it's when somebody starts suffering depression, anxiety, bipolarity, schizophrenia, what all these other mental illnesses that they then begin to treat the issue. And that's something that we know about. There was some stuff that had me emotionally bound and sick and toxic. And because I hadn't dealt with it, not because I didn't want to, but because I hadn't dealt with it, it put me in a very dark space. And honestly, it wasn't until I went and dealt with it. You can't heal what you won't look at.
Right.
Yep.
Yes.
It wasn't until I went back and looked at those areas that I had masked over, that I had reasoned, this is how I'm raised, and got healthy in that area, was our marriage then healed. And so my challenge to married folk or to singles, go see about you. Go get something like this resource. Right? They ain't paying me to make the recommendation. They probably should as much as I have. but go get yourself some help.
So you're telling church people it's fine to have Jesus and a therapist.
What?
And some prescription.
Thank you. I appreciate you, sir.
Yes, sir. Let me tell you, faith your tongues and turn around 3 times, and a good shondo will still get you home, and you have a gun in your hand.
It's funny, you're reading my mind. I was getting ready to say, stop ascribing to God what rightfully belongs to you. God is not the scapegoat for your insanity. He's not the scapegoat for your arrested development. And stop blaming him for it. And in order for you to take full accountability for it, you need to go see somebody.
Yes, sir.
That will cause you to confront yourself. It's funny to me in church, well, it's sad how in church culture, we use God as a cover-up. He's a cosmic cover-up.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
For the things we need to address. Some things you can't speak in tongues out of you.
No.
And I believe in speaking in tongues.
You try to cast out demons, you can't cast out character.
Yeah.
Wait, say that one more time, please,
That's
sir.
good. That's
Please
good.
say that again.
You trying to cast out a demon but you can't cast out character.
Yes, sir.
Hear ye, hear ye.
I do want to just remind the audience that it's not just the big mental illness triggers,
That's number 3.
but it's also being misogynistic. It's also being women only being around. I'm sorry.
No, I was just adding to your list. Go ahead.
Yeah. Women being only around. And we know one lady we counseled, she didn't have any male figure in her life. So she was
Which one you talking about?
punking her husband because and she didn't even see that she was demeaning him. But it was because of what she grew up in, and that's the only metric that she could have relationship in. So these are the things: pride, arrogance. There's a number of things that you've got to be introspective and say, Lord, what needs sifting? And I think a lot of us, we won't have those. We pray about the car and the house and the job, but we don't pray, Lord, what needs to be refined?
Right.
Sure. Can y'all drop one more on us, one more nugget, and then we'll get out of your way?
Yeah.
This one really kind of segments into what we just talked about without trying evidence of the Holy Spirit guiding this thing. The third thing is of the vow is in sickness and in health. And, seasons of life can bring health challenges, and you need to be aware of that, while they still virile, and doing what younger folk do, there could come a time when, they're not as virile. People have the misconception of intimacy. Intimacy is not sex. As a matter of fact, your sex life should be a reflection of the health of your marriage.
You just don't keep dropping bombs. Just keep dropping them, because this is good.
Some of our most intimate moments have been sharing a pillow.
Yes.
And crying together.
Man.
Because it's...
I'm sorry. Did we lose you, Steve?
I'm here.
Okay, I just want to make
I just ain't doing all that, but I'm with you. I support you.
He was like...
he was checking email.
What?
Oh, no, he actually checked out. Like, I don't need to hear this.
He's like, what? I can't. He's like, that can't be God. Like...
Stop before the pillow. Leave.
Oh my gosh.
So it's when I was younger, I used to think that, we ain't having a laying on hand service, we got a sick marriage. But culture again, it's and I think one of the hardest things has been to find a mentor as a man and as a couple that would help me stay right and move in the right direction and challenge my ungodly beliefs. I think because my dad failed in his marriage, he always would speak life into ours. He'd say, "Third, I'm go see about Lisa. How's Lisa doing?" Now, granted, he wouldn't say it till 8:30 at night when the meetings were over. Now, son, you've been here too long. Go see about Lisa. But that's what I'm talking. My dad didn't have any concept over, and so a lot of that I mirrored, and I put him and ministry and church before her, and that created sickness. It created some toxicity between us. Our marriage in certain areas had an infection. And so not only are we talking about the health dynamics of sickness, but we're also talking about spiritual dynamics of sickness. And if you're not ready for what life is going to bring you, I mean, some of the stuff I've had to go through, and probably now isn't the time, in my own being. No, She's lived out we only did 3, there are 5. She's lived out every one of these vows because she will not quit. She understands that a vow is a promise, and I'm not going to break my promise to God or my husband.
Well, I was just saying, because love isn't conditional.
No.
So it isn't based upon, okay, so when he's healthy and he has money and life is good, you know, we have no struggles. Oh, then I want to be married. No, marriage, it goes back to the beginning. It takes work, and it takes you being big enough to be small enough to go and see about your spouse when they're in dark moments, when they can't even take care of themselves. I mean, you talk about love, I can't imagine, thank the Lord, I haven't had to experience caring for my husband with cancer, or, you know, people that have these horrible experiences medically.
But at least you recover, or you get past the surgery. I've had bouts of depression more than once.
Yeah.
And how do you treat that? When I look fine, my health is fine, but I ain't acting right. You can see cancer metastasize. And I'm not wishing either on anybody, but there's a whole nother dimension. Mental health is just now becoming okay to talk about.
Yes.
And that the shame is leaving. But here is, again, another couple that was healthy in what people could see, but a lot of it was an act.
But so people will quickly check the irreconcilable differences tab, because they don't want to fight.
Right.
And you have to fight for what you care about. You have to fight for what's important to you. And that means doing hard work. So if you're not willing and ready to be selfless and do hard work, and maybe have some worse and some poor and some sickness, don't get married.
And you know what, Alecia, we leave out this word courage when we describe love. We'll talk about the fidelity of love.
Yep.
We'll talk about the commitment of love.
Yeah.
But we forget also inherent in love is courage.
Love it.
You have to be courageous.
You do.
You
have to be courageous.
Yeah.
To do it again, to get up again, to forgive again, to try again. Absolutely.
This is so excellent. This is beyond excellent. This is exceptional. And thank you all for your transformative transparency in having this conversation today.
Well, it's been great to be on, and we bless you all for even being concerned about singles. And
well, I'm really just concerned about Stephen.
Oh, well.
No,
did this make you run, Stephen?
No, I took copious notes,
Stephen's
Lisa.
good. Yeah, if many singles were like Stephen, we can make some headway here. But no, this was excellent, and it matters because for those of us who are married, we were all once single, and so I don't think you could ever lose that burden for single people, because, and that doesn't mean that everybody's called to be married. I don't believe that for 1 minute. I don't believe every single person is called to be married, wants to be married, or has to be married.
Yeah.
But whether you are functioning solo or whether you desire to be booed up and coupled up, I think these principles are transcendental. I believe these principles transcend a status, and they're critical for identity. And so thank you all for giving clarity to this.
How can the people follow y'all, keep up with y'all, connect with y'all?
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
So every other Sunday night, we do a piece called Team Us. That is the name of our ministry. On Facebook, it's Join Team Us. On Instagram, it's @TeamUs. The website is simply thechurchinfo.org. There's a nice little tile there that says Team Us. thechurchinfo.org. And yeah, every other Sunday. So this past Sunday night, we did Why Do Good Men Cheat? And it was awesome. I mean, we had fun with it, had some good questions to go along with it from the audience, and we didn't finish it, you know, much like even today. And so the first, November the 1st, will be our next episode on Facebook, Team Us, and it's part 2.
And it's Sunday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
And Stephen, let me say one thing. I'm sure people were informed, inspired. They were even able to engage in some corrective measures through what they heard from Jay and Alecia today. Their Cash App is there. They didn't ask us to do this. This is just what we do because we value every individual that comes on this platform. So go by Cash App, $join Team Us, and just share some encouragement. Let them know how much you appreciate what they're giving themselves to. They don't have to do this. They could just stay booed up on Sunday nights or whenever they come on because they like each other and they like hanging with each other. So they're giving themselves away and offering content to you that's going to add to your life, whether you're single or married. So stop by their Cash App and just say, hey, we appreciate you. We love you. Thank you for being here. And make sure you tune in to their show on Sunday nights.
Thank you for the commendation.
Yeah.
Oh,
today was a treat.
Our pleasure. Stephen, what you got going on, man?
Run of the mill mirror moments.
Wait, stop. You know what? Forget you. I get tired of that. So let me tell y'all what Stephen's got going on because I'm not playing with him. Listen. If you want to hear somebody who's incisive, INCISIVE, incisive. You want to hear somebody insightful. You want to hear somebody inspiring. You need to become a member. I'm going to be emphatic about this. Become a member of the Mirror Moments movement. Go to StephenJThurston.com and join today. He has a conversation called Mirror Moments on Tuesdays at 3 p.m. on Facebook Live. You don't want to miss it. It's at Stephen J. Thurston. But he's putting out content on multiple levels. He's giving you a monthly ebook. He's giving you live content. He has a Zoom conversation. He's giving you worksheets. The man is putting it out there for you. And that's just one aspect of who he is. He's in project management. If you've got any idea, concept that you want to see through from conceptualization to actualization, that's your dude right there. So go check him out. He's brilliant. He's a genius. I'm surrounded by geniuses. Thurston, Alecia, my wife, they're all around me, you know, so I just live in their orbits and just absorb. I'm like the orb.
Okay, Dr. Allmon twice over
around me. So, but yeah, check him out. Go to StephenJThurston.com. I'm serious. Go do it. And we got to build his YouTube channel up. So I need y'all to find him on YouTube, Stephen J. Thurston. We need 1,000 subscribers before Christmas. So go and hit him up. And this has been great. We need a part.
You're not gonna talk about RickyAllmon.org and all the great stuff you got going on?
Never mind.
Yep, y'all go to RickyAllmon.org, get the ebook, get the paperback, hardcover, get everything that Ricky offers as it relates to strategy and life lessons. And then Thursday nights, 8:30 Central Standard Time. You've got to be on his platforms. He's dropping bombs.
One thing, your audience probably don't know what incisive means, Rick. By the way, you have a new nickname. It's Dr. Rick. You know, when you talking about genius, both of them earned doctorates. Maybe we say doctors, not things about two people. Dr. Rick. That's when I start calling you. Incisive, intelligently analytical, and clear thinking. I know what it was. I know some folk didn't know either.
Well,
so I just thought I'd say them the keystrokes.
I wanted them to look it up, but you're the walking dictionary too. And Stephen's a thesaurus. So thank you all for
today was great. Thank y'all very much for the invitation.
No, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you for taking the time. Love y'all. As Stephen says, We'll holler.